We would like to welcome the authors for our first books who've manifested an amazing book. So our first book this evening is To Every Parent, to Every School, Raising Resilient Children in a VUCA World by V. Raghunathan and Meena Raghunathan.
I have a question for you too, Raghu.
Mr. Raghunathan was a professor of finance at IIM Ahmedabad for nearly 2 decades before transitioning to senior corporate roles. And Meena Raghunathan has spent nearly 4 decades improving school education, starting at the Center for Environment Education and later leading CSR initiatives for GMR Group. She developed India's first undergraduate environmental textbook, authored over a dozen sustainability-focused teacher manuals, and has contributed to many policy documents on the subject. So about the book, for those of you wondering what VUCA is, it has to do with volatility and uncertainty. So your book, Meena, your book focuses on preparing children for a rapidly changing, unpredictable world. Can you tell us more about what inspired it? And
I don't know if inspired is the word or nudged us to do it, because I think what we saw was a worrying situation. Children are, Professor Raghuram in the morning gave a very positive spin on the term VUCA, but the world is very volatile, very uncertain, very complex and ambiguous, and children are being buffeted by it. In the corporate world, there are responses to this. They actually do training on EI, on resilience, on adversity. But I don't think anybody is really thinking about how all this is affecting children, and they are kind of like at the receiving end. All the VUCA that affects their parents and the adults in the world is also reflecting on them. And we see a change in the nature of childhood, in the nature of education, of youth. They are very, very different. So, it worried us as people who've been in education all our life. We could see that young people are under great stress. Things like bullying, which used to be, minor when we were young, or the inequities. When we went to school, everybody wore the same uniform, arrived in the same school bus. But today, those inequities are manifesting so seriously and impacting the children so hard. I think that's what nudged us to kind of, so I wouldn't say inspired, I would say we were kind of agonized enough to write the book.
Given your extensive experience in both education and corporate, what are some key strategies you feel that schools and parents can implement to help children become more resilient?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think at one level, we overprotect children from, the kind of dangers and the risks. Of course, the dangers and risks are very serious today, unlike when we were growing up. But we kind of cushion them, and we try to create bubbles around them as if the rest of the world doesn't exist. And when they meet, it's like Buddha, right? I mean, his father cushioned him, and when he encountered the real world, he gave up the world. So, we need to draw a line where children know the real world, which they are getting further and further away from, because children of the middle class, the upper middle class, and all, they have no idea of the reality of India or the idea of the world itself. So I think some kind of exposure, some kind of reality touch, they're all single children, so they get everything. Parents start out with the thing, I didn't have everything I wanted when I was young, so I must give my children all the advantages. But I'm not sure that that's really the best way. deferring wants is a very good way of bringing up children. I mean, it's not instant gratification. That's not what the world is about. So some of these things, you have to kind of, tough love is not a bad thing at a certain level. So I would say that's one way of building resilience. But schools also must do it consciously and build it into their systems and structures.
I just have one question. Do you think slowing down is perhaps one thing that you would advocate in the context of VUCA and all the challenges that the world today faces?
Well, slowing down, the trouble with slowing down is maybe it's not in your control. The world is pushing you to kind of, go at a certain pace, but you have to internally strengthen yourself to kind of go with the pace. I don't know how much slowing down is an option for all of us. Some unusual people like, last session we had the journalist who investigates all of this and writes, though he knows the risks to him. But how many of us have that option to kind of go against the grain or go slow down? So yeah. But yes, having said that, life is not a sprint, but a marathon is a point we make very strongly in the book.
Right.
Thank you so much, Meena. We now invite Mr. Sitaraman, the former editor. Oh, okay. We now invite questions from the audience, if anyone has any questions for Ms. Meena. Well, yes, I do have one more question for you. So, can you share any practical tips? Like, what is the number one tip you would give to parents? You mentioned tough love. Is there anything else in terms of nurturing adaptability and emotional resilience?
I think one conscious trait we could cultivate is helping children learn from mistakes. Not make mistakes either a kind of thing that is to be avoided, to be ashamed of, but accept a mistake, try to work through it. Why did it happen? How can it not happen? The idea is not to repeat mistakes by being careless or being uncaring, but accepting a mistake and kind of analyzing it and moving on to do better. So seeing mistakes as a stepping stone to kind of progress, I think is something that should start at home and can be done.
That is yes, we have a question from the audience.
So, I have a question. We live in a polarized world, and I think that polarized environment is very much present in every home. So, when children are taught inclusive ideas at school, while the views at home are very parochial, very rigid, how does such contradicting environments impact the child? And what is a way to achieve the optimum outcome of it, from it? How should things evolve?
I think if a school is teaching, we used to say this as environmental educators, we are not here to give the answers. We don't know, maybe we don't know the answers, but it's teaching children how to process information, giving them a good sense of what is right and wrong, and then leaving them to make the decision is really what education is about, right? It's not feeding, then it veers on to indoctrination if you push a particular view. So I think enabling and empowering children and believing that they have the ability to process and make decisions for themselves, I think that is the way to go.
Meena ji, just a little bit curious how you think that, which I notice with the young generation and the children, the ambitiousness is a little bit not there. You think that there's an improvement there or is going downwards, or you feel that that's the main reason between the gap of the next generation, this generation? What do you think about it? Is getting better or is getting less? Or
so are they growing more ambitious or less ambitious?
Less ambitious. This is my, maybe their field is different. They may be more ambitious in one field another. That's one point I was just thinking.
Yeah, you know, I think even in children and youth, the kind of gap is growing. Those who are doing well are doing extremely well. They are extremely ambitious. They know where they want to go. But a large number seem to be kind of becoming fairly clueless, maybe because of the very nature of choices around, or, you know, things like that. So I do feel that it's splitting, with the top 20%, 25% growing very, very aspirational, and the rest kind of saying, this is our lot in life, it's okay. I mean, you know, the roti, kapda, makan is taken care of. Now, you know, life will take its own course. So, yeah, I don't know the answer in terms of things, but I see both things happening.
Thank you, Ms. Meena.